Welcome back, everybody. I'm so glad to see you. Today's story is about a girl named Esther. Now, you see, Esther was a Jewish girl who had been brought to Babylon as a captive. You see, the Babylonians had gone into Israel, conquered them, and brought a lot of their people back as slaves. And in Babylon, there was a king named Artaxerxes. And you thought your name was hard to say or hard to spell? His has like 3 X's in it. I've never seen a name like it before. But anyway, that's besides the point. King Artaxerxes had this reputation of having a new queen all the time. You see, if she didn't listen to what he said, he would just get rid of her and bring in a new queen. And so one night he decides he's going to throw a wild party, and he invites the queen to come, and she says, "No, I'm not going to go to your party." And he says, "You know what? You're gone. So let's have a contest to find me a new queen." So he tells his subjects to go out and to find the most beautiful girl in his kingdom, and she will be his new queen. And so there's a contest, and they send out the people, and there's a Jewish girl named Esther who gets picked to be queen. Now, you see, she has a family relative, a close relative named Mordecai, and he says, "Now look, don't tell them you're Jewish. Just accept the position and become queen." And so she does. Now, also part of the king's subjects and people who helped him rule was a guy named Mordecai. And Mordecai had a problem. See, he thought that he was bigger and better than everybody else. And he expected people to bow down to him whenever he came around. But Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman. And this made Haman very, very angry. So angry, in fact, that Haman decides, "I'm going to get rid of all the Jewish people," because that's who Mordecai is. Mordecai, hearing of the plot, goes to Esther and says, "Look, you need to go to the king to save our people. Haman is going to kill us all." Now, you see, there was another law in King Artaxerxes' rule that said that if you go to the king unannounced to talk to him, he will have you killed. And so Esther's sitting there talking to Mordecai, and she's like, "How can I go talk to him? If I go talk to him, I could be killed. What am I supposed to do?" And Mordecai said this: "You have been placed in this position for a purpose. You are where you are for a reason. God has got a plan for this. You need to do this. This is what God has got you here for." And so Esther begins to think, how can I talk to this king about what I want? And so she finally gets time to go talk to the king, and she says, "Hey, I want to throw you a party." And the king says, "Yes." And she goes, "I have a question I need to ask you." And the king goes, "Whatever you want, up to half the kingdom is yours if you ask for it." And so she throws this party, and at the end of the party, the king's like, "Okay, so what did you want?" And she said, "Well, let's have another party again tomorrow night." And so they do, and they have another party. And at the end of that party, the king finally says, "Hey, what is it that you want?" And she said, "Well, let me tell you, Haman has made a rule to kill all the Jewish people, and you have agreed to that rule. But you need to know that I am a Jew, and you'll not only be killing me, but you'll be killing my family as well." And at that, King Artaxerxes gets rid of Haman and saves the Jewish people. He reverses the order. Now, you may think that's kind of a crazy story, and on some levels it is. A king that says, if you talk to me when I don't want you to, I can kill you, and if you don't listen to me, I can get rid of you and bring in somebody else. That is pretty crazy, right? But the important thing is that we see God placing Esther in a very specific place, in a very specific position, at a very specific time, right? Her job was there to save her family, to save her people. And in our lives, we're going to find ourselves in places and in positions and in difficult times and facing things that we think, "Man, I don't know what this is about. I don't know what this is for, but I don't know if I can handle this." But the whole time is God has got us there for a reason. And we need to listen to people like Mordecai, right? We may not have a Mordecai in our life, but we have somebody in our life who's going to be able to tell us, "Hey, God's got this. God's got you here for a reason." And we need to make sure that we're paying attention and listening to what God is telling us to do. And listening to the people who are telling us that, hey, maybe this is what you're here to do. And find ways to show God's glory, God's power. So my challenge to you this week is read the book of Esther. See the difficult situation she was in. Not only has she been brought into a country that's not her own, and she's there as a captive, but she gets elevated to queen. And with that role comes a lot of danger, but yet she still used her situation to save God's people. And in your life, I want you to also reflect on maybe some difficult times that you've had, some tough places you've been, but how God used those things to make the situation better. So that's my challenges for you this week. Until next time, I can't wait to see you again.